So tonight we are joined by former Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council board member and Public Safety Committee Chair, Kristin Sales. Kristin is passionate about connecting people and creating social capital with the focus on making a difference in people's lives. She enjoys empowering, connecting, and educating individuals about the proper resources their communities and neighborhoods already possess, so that they may confidently prepare for and respond to scenarios that may arise. Kristin is the CEO and co-founder of Prep Connect, a public benefit corporation that's mission is to educate, connect, and inspire people and their neighborhoods to be self-reliant responders to natural and man-made disasters through innovative preparation and empowerment. Tonight, she's here to speak to us about one of their signature neighborhood preparedness programs, Map Your Neighborhood. Welcome, Kristin.
Tonight, I am going to talk to you guys about the Map Your Neighborhood program. And I just wanted to see with a raise of hands, how many of you guys have heard of the Map Your Neighborhood program before? Okay, a few of you, just a few of you. Okay, so this is the Map Your Neighborhood program. The Map Your Neighborhood program is a program of different courses. We used to do them live, and what I'm doing now is putting them all online. And I'll go over what that looks like, the difference from what it was in the past to what it is now. These materials and these courses, they help you and your neighbors to be able to prepare for a disaster with you and your neighbors. So it's a little bit different than personal preparedness. It's actually community and neighborhood preparedness. And it's designed specifically for you to be able to respond to each other in the golden hour, which is that first hour, that critical hour after disaster. And this program is designed to be done with a block of homes or in an apartment complex. And usually those blocks are about 15 to 20 homes. And the reason why we limit it to about 15 to 20 homes is so that we can respond to one another in that first hour after a disaster. If it gets any bigger than that, it gets harder for us to be able to respond in that first hour. If you're in a more rural area, or if you're up in the hills of Sherman Oaks or the hills here in Los Angeles, or even other communities, whoever's listening to this, maybe you live in a more rural area and you're more spread out. In those situations, you might find that 5 to 7 homes is more ideal for you. So the idea is however many homes that you could respond to in the first hour. This program was designed, the Map Your Neighborhood program was designed by a scientist named Luann Johnson, and she developed this program over 30 years ago. It's been used in multiple disasters. It's been proven. It's won awards. It's used in multiple states here in the United States, and it's actually used, as far as I know, in about 4 countries so far. The golden hour is a term that emergency responders use. So we use that often in the Map Your Neighborhood program to help kind of set our frame of mind of what we're really talking about as far as the time frame that we're looking at. Now, the golden hour, why we focus on that specific hour is that is when we have realized that we can have the most effect and the most impact on responding to one another. Because in that first hour, we're able to actually save lives, reduce the severity of damage, property damage, and reduce any environmental damage that may be happening in that area. So that first hour is really, really critical. And history has shown that the more prepared our communities are, the more we're able to jump into action right away, and we're able to assist our neighbors. In communities where they don't have anything in place, what you see happening is they're sort of paralyzed. They know they need to do something, but it's sort of a little bit more chaotic. And people are just kind of like running here and there, trying to figure things out. We do know in history, from past experience and anecdotally, that in disasters, especially here in the United States, we really see people wanting to help and they want to come together. As humans, we do that, right? You've seen disasters where there's floods and everyone comes and they bring their boat and they try to help people. But the more we're organized ahead of time and the more we already know what our resources are, we already know what our vulnerabilities are and what our strengths are amongst our neighbors, the better we are able to jump into action right away in that first hour, because it's really, really critical. Some people might be trapped in a home or underneath a bookcase or things like that. And the sooner we can get to them, the quicker we can make an actual difference on them. Some people, when I've presented this before, some people always ask the question of like, well, isn't the government prepared? Like the government has all these emergency disaster responses and they come in and they help. They do, yes. However, their ability is limited. And the way that they look at it is they come in from the top down and they're doing a higher level. What we're talking about is you and your neighbors, whoever's closest to you, helping each other quicker. There's going to be some things in some neighborhoods that maybe can't be handled by one another. And that's when the government and you guys will meet, right? Some of you may have heard of the CERT program, which Kristin mentioned earlier. The CERT program is amazing. And the CERT program actually kind of also fits in between here, right? So the government has a plan and all the emergency responders have a plan. Your emergency management departments all have a plan. CERT kind of fills in that gap between the emergency responders, and they have an extensive 7-week training program, which some of you may have taken for their CERT level 1. And then they have multiple levels that go up from there. And then Map Your Neighborhood is kind of down here, and it's more grassroots. You and your neighbors come together and you help create a plan. You help get to know one another. You know what your strengths and your weaknesses are, what resources you have to use to help each other. And then you kind of button up your own neighborhood. And then those things that you can't handle, then that's when CERT will kind of come in and help you. And then if they can't handle it, then it levels up to there. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll keep going. So one of the things I always like to say here is to also kind of get us in the right frame of mind is we talk about disaster and we talk about emergencies. We kind of have to know what's the difference between those two things, right? Disaster sounds really ominous and it sounds scary, but in reality, what I'm really talking about is an emergency. Let's talk about an emergency. An emergency is when you would call 911, right? And we're all used to it. We're trained as young children. We call 911 when there's something out of our control that we can't handle, right? Something happened to one of your loved ones, and you find them and you call 911 because you need help. And usually it's going to be the paramedics. Your emergency responders are your paramedics, police, fire department, and also utilities, right? So if we smell gas or there's a power line down, the utility company is going to respond. So those are our 4 main emergency responders that we expect to come and show up when we dial 911, right? Now in a disaster scenario, let's say something catastrophic happens, and it might be more localized, it might be big, right? It might be something like an earthquake here in Los Angeles, let's say, and it's going to incapacitate the 911 system. So if you were to pick up the 911, even the same scenario just happened at your home and you dial 911 and you expect someone to be there, the system might be down because it's going to be overloaded. Now, what happens then, right? What happens when you still have this same situation? You still need to help your friend, your neighbor that fell off of a ladder, and you need to be able to help them, and it's beyond your ability to help them. What do you do? Who becomes those first responders? We do. You and your neighbors, or whoever is closest to you at that time. And that's why we have this program, Map Your Neighborhood, because those situations may happen, right? Hopefully they don't happen, but they may. And as I said earlier, the more that we're prepared, the more that we know each other, and we really know each other, the more we're going to be able to take care of each other in that time of need. What I'm going to show you now is our booklet. So the way the Map Your Neighborhood program works is we have a booklet that each household will get. And then you have a course that you will go through that guides you through the booklet, and it guides you and your neighbors how to get to know one another. And I help teach that course, right? So it'll be me on the video. You'll go through a lesson, you'll stop the lesson, you'll talk about something with you and your neighbors, and then you go on to the next lesson. Each lesson is about 1, maybe 3 minutes long. I've designed them so they're quick, short little lessons. And then there's time for you and your neighbors to talk and discuss, get to know one another. And it's all guided, and it's all goes in these booklets. Every household keeps these booklets. So if there is ever a disaster, you will have this to reference and go back to. What you learn in the first course, besides getting to know your neighbors, you also learn these 9 steps that you're going to follow immediately after a disaster. And out of these 9 steps, the first 6 steps actually happen in your own home. And I think that's just pretty awesome, because there's a lot that we can do on our own just by knowing this, right? There's a lot of preparedness and a lot of helping one another and buttoning up our communities, making ourselves safer just by doing these 6 steps in our own home. And there are things like making sure that your gas is shut off if it needs to be shut off, because leaking gas is a big cause of fires, right? So different things like that. We also, one of the steps is if everyone's okay in your home, you're going to post this okay sign. And if anyone in your home needs help, you're going to post this help sign. Now this helps once you get to the other steps of step 7 or step 8, when you're going to go out in teams with your neighbors and you're going to check on those homes. So any of these homes that have a help sign put up, you're going to help them. So step number 7 is you're going to go to a gathering site in your block, in your neighborhood, that you have predetermined in your meeting. And that's something that you'll learn in that first course. And then you'll go there, then you form teams. There's 4 teams that you'll form. And this is all after a disaster, but we go through it. The 4 teams that you're going to form, one is a communications team. One is a care and shelter team. So you set up a little place where anyone in your neighborhood that might need extra help, the children, so that the grownups can go out and do surveying or helping other neighbors. The children can go to this place. The team number 3 is your utility and street safety team. They're going to help button up the block if there's downed trees, downed wires. They're going to put barricades up and create a safe space or alert neighbors to potential dangers. They're also going to shut off the gas meters or make sure any of those gas meters are shut off if they need to be. And then our team 4 is our search and aid team. And you'll learn about all of those teams again in that first course. You're going to learn skills that you and your neighbors collectively possess and equipment, and you'll write them all in these booklets. You'll also create a map of who lives where, what house, and I'll guide you through all of that in the course. And then there's a contact list, who lives where and in what house, and that all goes in your booklet. Some people ask the question, why is it in a booklet? Why can't it all be online? It can, but also history has shown us, and it's this is all very science-based. And like I said, it's been used for 30 years, and it's iterative. Every time it gets modified and changed when we see what works and what needs tweaking. What we do know is that in a disaster situation, having something in your hands is very grounding. And it really helps to be able to guide someone through and be like, okay, I need to start with step number 1. And then I go to step number 2. So that's why it's in paper. What I've been talking about is our first course. Course number 1 is called Connect. So that's the purpose of our first course. Our second course is called Discuss. This one, you're going to review everything that you learned in the first course, and then you're going to sit back as with you and your neighbors, and you're going to talk about some scenarios and potential disaster scenarios and discuss those. And then in the next one, it's called Explore. In that one, you're going to do a little exploration around your neighborhood. You're going to look at those actual gas meters, really make sure they're plotted in the right place. Do you need a key? Can you access where they're located? The fourth one is Apply. This one, you're going to do an actual little drill, and you're going to practice at home and then with your neighbors. And in this one, you'll also learn a little communications drill. Will teach you like simple communication methods. And then in the last one is a fun one. It's called Simulate. That one's actually a full-on drill. And in that one, you'll have mystery envelopes that each household will get. And there's a secret thing that's happening at each household. You don't share it with anyone, but you come to the gathering site or don't, depending on what your mystery envelope tells you. So it's a little bit of a game. And it's also a really good way for you to practice these skills. And each of these courses is designed to happen about 6 to 9 months after, in succession with one another.
So one of us talks to the neighbors, maybe sends a text, an email or something. And then if we have agreement with, I don't know, we have probably, 12, 15 houses, then I would get in contact with you, and then you set everything up. And is there a cost? And I mean, how do we start the thing if we can do it?
Yeah, good question. So yeah, basically there's usually, it just takes one person to be like, oh, I want to do that in my block. I want to do this. It's interesting to me. Right now you could contact me, you can go on the website, and we could kind of work at it from that direction, because everything is still kind of being built out. But what you'll do is you'll contact me. The price point right now is about $3 a household. I've tried to keep it really, really inexpensive. And that includes the booklet, and it includes the course. And I've priced it so that it's $3 for 20 households. So you'll get 20 books. I should also mention, if there's an ADU on your property, each of the buildings, or if there's someone living in your garage, like any different entity of people that are living on your parcel of land, they each will need this booklet, because they're each in a separate part of the house. Or if there's an area of your house that has a separate entrance, they should have a plan as well. Sometimes nannies or housekeepers, you may want them to have it, but you don't want them to have all of the proprietary personal information. But you might want to give them some redacted information, and it's critical that they know, that the 9 steps that they're going to follow, and it's critical that they know the meeting location that you're all going to meet at. Especially if it's a nanny that's home all day long, or maybe, you have a caretaker that's in your home. They should also be aware of the plan, or where you keep the plan. We suggest you keep these in your under the bed kit, because then like that's where your hard hat is, and that's where your shoes are. And some of you are going to be like, what's a hard hat and shoes, and why are they under my bed? Well, I'll go over that in the course. But if you've taken CERT classes, or if you've taken any of my courses, we do talk about that. And that is where we recommend it, just because it's a location that people know where to find it. And also, if you were sleeping during a disaster situation, you won't have to wander around sleepily looking for, some shoes to put on. So that's where we recommend that you get that. So right now I have these booklets. If you're interested in doing that, I can send them to you. And the course is designed to be done online, and it walks you through all of that as a special sort of offering to my Sherman Oaks friends. I am willing to kind of help guide you through a little bit more of this, as we're kind of feeling our way through it and making the transition from Kristin doing this live to it all being done on video. So in the past, what I would have done is I would have gone to your community and helped guide the meeting with you and your neighbors. But what I do is I help you invite your neighbors. I help you how to invite them, help you get all the verbiage of why they need to show up, what they're going to learn. I have a little meeting invite that you can actually send to each of those neighbors. You can send it through email. You can print it as a PDF and you could drop it at their door. I always, when I did this in my neighborhood, so I've done this with thousands of people here in LA and in Sherman Oaks proper. And what I would do is I would actually door knock and try to have an actual conversation with them. And then I would leave them with the invitation or flyer about that. And I would choose a specific date that I wanted to do a meeting. So some neighborhoods, a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. works well, but some, like if you have a neighborhood that's full of children that have soccer games on Saturday mornings, that's probably not the best time. So you'll know that you can take the temperature of your neighborhood and like, what's the best time. I had one neighborhood and they were like, we want to do 7 p.m. on a Friday night and have it be like a little dinner party. That's great. Like if, whatever works for your neighborhood, like that's what you'll do. The goal is to try to get as many people there as possible, but do know that because we have all these add-on meetings that they can come to the next one and they can be filled in. And because the course is online, they can actually catch up and they can watch some of those videos and they can learn and understand, what's going on and what's expected of them. And then if they need to fill in the contact list and things like that later, they could do that at the next meeting. Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, no, that's fantastic. I'm wondering about the logistics of it because we still have a COVID kind of thing going on.
Right.
Is there, and you're saying it's going to be video. So is there something we can do if we want to do like in the backyard or a front yard? Is there because we would want a bigger screen or something. Is there a way to do it?
Yeah, so that was one thing that I'm trying to kind of work out is how to guide neighborhoods, but because there's so many different variables and levels of comfort. How do you get together now in times of pandemic? Yeah. I am exploring one new company that actually where you could do everything on like a Zoom. It's not a Zoom, but it is something like that. And you create a community and little private communities, and then you could watch the videos within that and you guys could do it through Zoom that way. Of course, you could actually do it through Zoom as well, and someone would just be the screen sharer and share the videos. And also, yes. Everyone could watch, you could say, everyone watch video 1, 2, and 3 at home. And then you just come together and talk about who lives in what house, what your vulnerabilities are, what your strengths and what your skills are. And you would just do those videos together in person, maybe in a backyard or maybe on Zoom, whatever your comfort level is. So there's a lot of variables and it depends on each neighborhood of what works and yeah.
This sounds
some people can project it. Like I know some people have projectors and you could project it.
We probably could. Yeah, I'm just thinking that it's time that we have to do something. We do have to be prepared. We may never need it. But,
the beautiful thing about this is the way I came to this, and I don't know if this helps, but it obviously helps me because it got me to do this. But I came to Los Angeles and I kept hearing like, oh, you need to get prepared. You need to get prepared. You need to know what to do in an earthquake. And I was like, that's boring. I don't want to do that. But I had already organized my community. I had already organized my entire neighborhood of 580 single family homes. And so when I heard of this program, I was like, ooh, this is cool because now I can actually do disaster preparedness with my neighborhood. And then that's going to motivate me to be personally prepared in my own home. So it kind of served like both purposes, and it got us to really know each other even more as a community. And we really felt a lot more empowered, because I think sometimes people are like, oh, disaster, like that's scary. What this program does and what I've seen is literally magic happens in every meeting that I've ever facilitated. Everyone leaves that meeting like feeling like, like you can just see partway through the meeting and their shoulders just drop and they're like, you can tell, like they're like, oh, now I don't feel so scared of a disaster, because once I do this, I'm going to know my neighbors and I know that they're going to be able to take care of me, because now they know that my kid is home after school alone, right? Or that my grandma's here alone every Saturday morning, and they know someone is going to be there to help them and take care of them.
And this facilitates and sort of jumpstarts those hard conversations that people do want to avoid, because it's not necessarily a fun thing to talk about. But
Right.
I love this program because you've got it broken out into steps that are easily chewable.
Yeah.
I fight this and do this little bit and I've accomplished something.
Yeah. You know, in fact, in some of the neighborhoods that I've helped facilitate these meetings in, the grown-ups in the home couldn't show up, but they sent a high school, member of their home that could come and then relay the information back to them. And I was like, yeah, because it is that simple, right? These are simple action items that you can take, but they make a big difference. Huge, huge difference.
I have a couple of questions. Do you have this in Spanish?
We don't have this fully in Spanish yet, but that is definitely on the docket, and it will be translated into other languages. But I don't have the booklets printed in Spanish yet.
So, Kristin, you mentioned that the next step is about 6 to 9 months out, or did I hear that wrong?
Right. So that would be once you do the first course, which is the Connect course. Then the next one is about however often you want to do it. But you want to keep your community engaged, and also remember you want to capture those new people that have moved into the neighborhood, or people that maybe missed the first course, the first meeting that you were connecting with your neighbors. And so that's why they're designed and suggested that they're about 6 months later, 6 to 9 months later.
Could you do them more frequently or sooner than that? Or is it?
You could, it really depends on your community. Some people that are home all the time and they don't have a very busy community, like you could do that. The ones that are like really, really active and busy, you're going to find that it's difficult to get them together. I have some communities that I work with in other states where they're mostly retired and they live in a more farm, rural community. They're able to bang them out, and then they run the drills. They just constantly get together and then they'll do practice drills. In my experience with Los Angeles and the way we live here in Los Angeles is that we're very busy and everyone's like everywhere, right? And we usually traverse a big part of the city. So it's hard to get to a lot of people together to make it effective. So that's my experience. It may not be like that in your neighborhood. So it really depends on each neighborhood.
Is there an ideal number of neighbors to do this? I know with Neighborhood Watch, they do blocks.
Yeah.
So would it be 20 houses or would it be 5 houses?
Right.
I happen to live in an area where I'm on a block all by myself with 5 other houses.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just this tiny, weird little block. And I don't know that I could get these neighbors to participate. But I was thinking maybe the group of homes behind me, but it's a very long street that just goes forever. So.
Okay, good question. So my neighborhood in Sherman Oaks, I lived on one that had about 80 single family homes on it. So it was a really long block. But there were these 2 little short streets that kind of like you would curve onto it and then it would shoot north, and then another one at the north that like went that way. And so what I did is I broke that block of 80 homes up into, it was approximately 80 homes, into 4 different groups. And I added those little blocks of approximately 5 homes into the bottom section of this street going north. So I don't know if yours has a connection at all. So you'd want to do whoever you would see. What I've noticed in my experience in doing this is neighbors that you have eyes on, because you start to know, like, what are their patterns? Are they home? Are they safe? If you're not really able to see them and walk to them and get to them quickly, that probably doesn't make sense to include them in this. Like, if you had to walk all the way around the block to get to their front door, that might be a tricky one. It is designed to be 15 to 20 homes, and that is because of the golden hour, but also you do want to consider, what makes sense too.
And then how, is there any way to know if the people behind me within, say, a half a mile radius have done Map Your Neighborhood, or is it confidential?
Oh, that's a good question. So we've been pondering that. Like, we've gone around and around about, like, how do we handle things like that? It is confidential. Most likely you will know, though, like, if you go to their door and you say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this program, and this is, at Map Your Neighborhood, have you heard about it? They've maybe heard about it and they actually haven't done it yet. And that you could still do the program. Usually, like, when you're out on the dog walks, you're out walking the neighborhood, like, that's when people have chats about these kind of things. Or when something happens in your neighborhood, as you all know, like, that's when people start gathering, like, oh, someone's car got broken into. People gather and chat about it,
Yes.
different things like that. And that's when someone might bring up something like this, and you could mention it in that, hey, I'm looking at this program, Map Your Neighborhood. Have you guys heard of anyone that has done it in your block? If there's in your communities, because I know all of you guys and all the Sherman Oaks blocks that have done it, I could potentially reach out to the ones that I know that have done it and ask if they're, if anyone's willing to.
If they're still here.
Yeah, and that's the other question, right?
People move out.
Yes, people move on, and you do need to you need to review this at minimum once a year, because people move in and out of the community, and you do need to update the booklets, and people's situations change too, right? Babies are born, people move out and move in.
Kristin, thank you so much for returning to the Sherman Oaks Neighborhood Council Public Safety Committee that used to be your committee. We really appreciate seeing you again. And thank you for
this. Great to see all of you.
I took a lot of notes. Thank you.
Good. Thanks.